Is it just me? Can you make? I can't. No, I can't. I don't know how we can make it easier to read it.
You can join on your.
Yeah, you can join on your laptop.
Yeah, but then you can look at yourself real close, at least you're over there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're live streaming and we're recording, so.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor
Here.
Mr. Amberlite,
Here.
Ms. Wheatfield,
Here.
Ms. McCready is absent, Mr. McQueen,
I'm here.
Mr. Romero,
Here.
Mr. Mayor is absent.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News and Courier News, filed with the municipal clerk and posted on the municipal bulletin board on December 27th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, we have a presentation. It's not really a presentation, but our council president, Chad McQueen, will read a statement on behalf of the council.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want the history or just read it.
No, I think I'll read it and then we'll answer questions. Just so everyone's aware, I think I see Charlie on the other end of the phone. Charlie will send a copy of this to you so you have it. And it'll also go on the Borough website. So it's all available to the public. I specifically wanted to address several concerns that the council's heard lately that's been raised by the public regarding the ongoing downtown redevelopment project, specifically regarding the process or progress. And actually, there's been several questions of transparency. So I wanted to address a couple of things this evening. Just a little bit of history. The Quimby Lane Revitalization Project began in the spring of 2017. And since that time, local volunteers have donated thousands, probably several thousands of hours, guiding the development of the redevelopment plans, the vision for that project. In particular, the Downtown Redevelopment Committee donated hundreds and hundreds of hours, which was made up of mayoral appointed members of our community with expertise in development. Additionally, there were many in multiple workshops and hearings that solicited the input of the general public before any formal plans were adopted through various ordinances and other items. This included council and planning board meetings and discussions as to whether the area met the requirements as an area in need of redevelopment. Forward zoning, visions for the area, and ultimately selection of the developer and advanced realty were all discussed in public. Importantly, we want to make sure that the public has all of these documents and transcripts. They all can be found on the Borough website, and that specific link will be posted on the website as part of this address. Review, and importantly, review by all residents is encouraged, and importantly, all of these items have been thoroughly discussed and decided in public forums with full public disclosure, hearings, and opportunities for public comment. Just to give a little bit on the progress, currently our selected developer is in the planning and property acquisition phase of the project. This means that the developer is approaching local owners to acquire the desired 20 lots, and they create the future plan, hopefully to be implemented 12 to 18 to 36 months down the road. This is predicated on current owners in the designated area negotiating in good faith and recognizing fair market value, rather than placing additional burden on our community. As is mentioned before, eminent domain is not part of the plan. As part of our contract with Advance, we're expecting these concept plans soon, and this will be an exciting time for the public because the public will be able to see the vision, see what these various groups and these volunteers have planned, and ultimately what the Advance is hoping to do with that space. It's important for the public to understand that these plans, like all other decisions, will be discussed in public, and that will allow for full public discourse as to their appropriateness. Also to clarify, it's not taxpayer dollars which is being spent to advance this project forward, but rather the developers will earn the return once the project is complete. Importantly, everyone must understand what the borough can and cannot have influence over. One primary tool we possess is our local zoning regulations that govern our downtown. Over the period of 18 months, I know I personally and many members of this council and our planning board worked diligently to improve our zoning laws with the goal to make them more conducive to downtown growth and commerce. One small example of this was improving the outdoor dining ordinances. Others include rezoning many portions of that area to make them more appropriate. Again, those documents can be found on the borough website. The next piece, which has really come under some question, is a tool that we have through the state of New Jersey that allows municipalities to designate an area, what's called an area in need of redevelopment. Through this tool, municipalities have enhanced authority to direct redevelopment of already developed but declining areas toward a vision consistent with what are called smart growth principles and away from allowable but not always a desirable sprawl. Our downtown, like many others, has been trending towards sprawl, and this would continue to move in that direction if we do not take the actions that we're taking now. Specifically, redevelopment provides the borough with three very specific benefits. One, greater control over the quality and appropriateness of the design and development. Two, the ability to identify a developer who has the expertise and experience to make that vision a reality. And three, the ability to construct tax agreements to best provide both short and long-term financial benefits to our borough. This is something very important to the council. Currently, we have two areas in Bernardsville with this designation. The first is the Quimby Village block, and the second is the Audi dealership. And those are the only two areas that have that designation. And lastly, in many ways, the genesis for this address tonight, I want to address the Palmer property and the recent petition started by the proprietors at the bagel bin. First, I want to applaud our residents, including those proprietors who voiced their opinion on the future of this property, particularly in support of the small business, which many of us patron. I know I do myself on a weekly basis. Concern for the future and viability of our small businesses is certainly shared by our council, and it's the driving force in many of the decisions that we make. However, it's important to realize that this property is distinct and separate from Clinton Lane. As many are now aware, the Palmers sold their property interest to Advanced Realty in a private transaction, which the borough has no jurisdiction over. The council wants to thank the Palmers specifically for years of public service to this town and investment specifically in our community. And it recognizes their right to choose their own path with their own property. However, once learning of the transaction and that Advanced Realty was the buyer, which we have a relationship for other portions of our town, the Borough Council started the conversation to see if that area would also qualify for the development designation. This was done for a very specific purpose. First and foremost, if it qualifies, and it's important to notice that if it qualifies, because it's not the council's decision, it gives our borough the additional control over the quality and appearance of what it was built. It will hopefully promote a more unified and cohesive design for the downtown and a more orderly approach to redevelopment in the area, including accessing traffic patterns and flow around that area. As anyone that has followed the Borough Council meetings recently can probably attest, we are leading the charge to get our borough into a better fiscal place, where we can directly pay for improvements with capital cash flow instead of saddling the borough with additional debt that it cannot afford. This is also a driving force in this decision. To create this area of redevelopment designation, there are very specific criteria which we met. These are laid out in state law. This analysis will be done by our planning board, consisting of dedicated volunteer professionals from our community who have donated countless hours of their time over the past year with zoning laws and other things I just mentioned. Our planning board was diligent and very, very good work. These volunteers should be commended for their time, not criticized. As I mentioned before, as a borough, we can create the conditions for successful commerce and business through zoning and in certain circumstances, area redevelopment designations. What we cannot do is interfere with private enterprise, how businesses are run, and/or relationships and/or agreements between tenants and property owners. The borough also cannot influence how individual businesses are run by their owners, including decisions made by these owners as to whether or not to enter in or accept these agreements. This is not the proper role in municipal government. It is the desire of all members of the Bernardsville Council to see every local business succeed. This is one of our highest priorities when we make all decisions. This reason is recently evident by more businesses expanding their footprint inside and out, such as the Claremont Tavern, Mr. 73, the coffee shop, and the station. A successful downtown full of commerce and successful business owners is our goal. It's driving our decision process as we enter into redevelopment. We are working towards that goal with the Quimby Lane redevelopment project, and we welcome questions from the public. We have public, we're now here again live at direction of the mayor. Please come, please voice your concerns. Very soon, we're hoping to have formal plans from the developer, which will help provide more information as to what's going to happen or what could happen on the Quimby lot. And there'll be another great opportunity for the public to provide input. So with that, Mayor, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that, and I think you and Output and Tom put into getting all that together. Because that was a terrific overview of the whole redevelopment purpose that we're trying to accomplish here. So well done. Thank you. And very appropriately, it is now time for our, minutes. Let's forget the minutes. But if anyone, I see we have people in public, there's an opportunity. Actually, we have two at the second meeting. So there are two opportunities for public input. So we need a motion to approve the minutes of April 25th and May 9th.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? No. Good. Okay, now we have our open session for the public. So if anyone in the public would like to be heard on any issues or comments, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anthony, what's your hand up already? Anthony will hold up the timer so that you'll know how much time you're using. And please give your name and address before you speak. I see Olivia. Welcome back from the conference. We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't letting me
There you
unmute. I did want to just say,
Olivia, hold on one second, we can barely hear you.
Oh.
Make it a little louder.
oh, I'm up. Better now? Can you hear me now? Oh, better now?
It's not you, it's the system.
I have to go, I know.
Great.
I'm not sure.
Just make it loud.
I can wait if there's someone in the crowd. If there's someone else that wants to talk first, I can wait.
Oh, it's the speakers here, Olivia,
Yeah.
it's not you.
Okay, all right. Well, I just to move things along, but thank you.
Not you, it's me.
I've heard that before.
I just heard.
I heard something, it sounded like Sam.
Olivia, can you talk again?
I sure can.
No,
Better?
but it's,
No.
make it
Yeah, Chris on the phone.
oh, excellent, thank you.
Olivia, just give 1 second, we have Chris coming up.
Yeah, all good, no worries.
Still here? He's still in touch.
That's like this, and the councilman,
He's still here. I thought he was coming.
he's gonna dial in front of us.
He's gonna dial in and try to fix it.
Ah, okay.
Sometimes the sounds come out of his computer here and not the.
It's coming.
Oh, not the system.
Yeah.
Can you do that, dialing in and not, or please?
I think you can.
Oh, technology.
And those on the phone here, Olivia, better than we can?
Can
Hello,
you
hello?
hear us? Well,
I can hear you.
oh, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if, we can hear her well enough if we're quiet. Can you hear in the back? So go ahead, Olivia, we'll just pay very close attention.
Speak loudly.
Okay, I will try to speak slowly as well so that doesn't interfere. Thank you for the welcome back from the conference. In fact, that is why I wanted to just piggyback off of what was just mentioned. Thank you very much for sharing that with the public. I think it's super important that everyone really understands that redevelopment, as scary as it is not so bad. and that things are going to be okay. I know that change is really hard. But in the end, folks will be happy, and there's going to be folks that are not. And that's just the part of life, right? We can please only so many people. So I thank you for sharing that. And I hope that we can continue being relatively transparent, which was actually a very big theme of our conference. I just came back from the Main Street conference last week with Leah Horowitz, as you know, our new assistant director in the recreation department, and also our vice president. And we had just an incredible time learning a lot of new things, and especially on the topic of redevelopment, and championing this concept and making it at least a little bit easier for some folks to manage. Something else that's really important that I have personally been hearing a lot of as well is the idea of the low-income housing aspect. Because when people hear that, they think it's not going to be nice. But I feel confident in whatever the final plans are that low-income housing doesn't mean we are going to not be a nice town. Okay, so I hope that the public understands that whatever is going to happen, it's going to do well for our town. It's going to be a good move for what we do in our community. We just have to work together as much as we can to make sure that, everyone is aware of what's going on. And if you are afraid of the change, then my door is always open. You can come talk to me if you need to, but I'm sure members of our council or mayor are also there if you need to talk to somebody. So I think that the biggest thing is making sure that we are communicating. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thanks, Olivia. Actually, we call it affordable housing, not low-income housing.
Yes. Although I have been hearing a lot of people, I did receive a phone call from somebody looking to buy a house in Bernardsville last week. They were concerned of what that meant. And so I explained to them that it is in fact affordable housing. It's not low income. It's just to be very clear as to what that is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means that it's something that younger people can afford. It's living life these days is very hard. So, this stuff makes it a little bit easier for folks to.
And importantly, what's being built is in accordance with state law of any new development. So anytime that anything new is built, there's a certain percentage that is required to be affordable.
Yes.
And that's the portion that it's incorporated in a way, and we haven't seen plans, but when we see them, it'll be incorporated in a way, at least the desire is, that it makes a lot of sense. We don't want to have builders' remedies like other towns had, and I promise you, builders' remedies are not good. And I know there's been a lot of discussions in other towns about things that have happened that have been really bad. So I think by taking control, I think it all will be ultimately be positive for the community.
Yeah, I mean, we have the requirement that we have to have a certain percentage of affordable housing. Every town does, not just us. And I think the way that we have worked on keeping it, working it into the community rather than having a big standalone kind of project that you can see in other towns has really made a difference in keeping our community looking like Bernardsville. So, yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
I feel confident. So, whatever we can do to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Would anyone else from the public like to be heard? And if you can't do the little hand symbol, maybe you can just put on your visual and wave at us. Anthony, do you see anybody?
No.
Oh, Roberta, I'm looking up there and not looking at our in-person person. Can you come up?
Yeah, I just wanted to owl.
I don't know, yeah, camera on.
You see this funny little owl here?
Can I just sit here in
Yeah.
front of it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, as a member of the Shade Tree, I received a link to last week's the borough discussion on the pond, and I listened to it last night, and it was very difficult to hear and understand the Ripple Waters engineer, Ms. Goldman.
Yeah.
And because there was an echo or something like that, so it made it somewhat garbled, so I don't know if I missed some of the points, but anyway, I had some thoughts, and I just wanted to mention them. The current pond was a gift to the town. The land was bought by Richard Linderberry in 1916, and it was the old fund property on the edge of the village. And he developed it into a pond, with the pond as its principal feature for the pleasure and the use of his fellow townspeople. It was a site of, in those times, of frequent band concerts, games, and ice skating in those days. And now it's belongs to the borough, and the Bun Mill is the Borough Hall. And that came from a 1997 Bernardsville News article by Rita Quaid. And my concern, like Chief Valentine's, who made, I thought, an excellent presentation of the fact, and he has firsthand knowledge of the flooding experiences, is what happens downstream. So I know the dam had been equipped years ago with a function to help it control flooding downstream. I believe it's no longer functional for any type of flood control due to the silt that's accumulated in the last years, as far as I understand it. I'm assuming that's it. Currently, whenever it rains, there's major flooding downstream. And there's also that risk of the bottleneck through the underpass of the Quarry Road. The bridge is really in bad shape. Somebody really should take a look at that. And that problem occurs even before the water gets on to the farm. And I was wondering whether the water that comes down off the Bernards Mountain over there on the other side of the track and pond has been calculated and figured into the flood equation, what happens during a rainstorm. I know the railroad along there, it had built an underpass because they put the railroad up so that in flooding that the water would come through. I know there's one down on the farm, and I know when it rains, the water comes through there unbelievably, so from up on the mountain. So somebody should take a look at that maybe. And also figuring into the water table in the areas closest to the firehouse. I don't know if that area is going to stay wet and swampy because of the water table there. And I had some questions. I'm not an environmentalist, so instead of harnessing the harmful silt and et cetera and removing it, is it general practice these days just to keep spreading it like downstream? I don't know what how normally is dealt with. And I also have a question, are ponds all generally detrimental? And what about the wildlife that thrives in the ponds or the warm waters? And the water in ponds that have been dredged are usually deeper, and so the water is colder. So that, is it harmful for the cows to drink the water with the sediment in it? And what's the scouring process that was mentioned? I don't understand it. That would happen downstream and its effects. Was interested to know what the environmental concerns that are being relieved by removing the pond. I know I heard some of it, but I didn't hear it all. I know with the trout, not be able to go upstream. There are trout ladders that would solve that. The Canadian geese, getting rid of the pond is not going to get rid of the geese. They're all along the stream down there. And the only thing that really helps are snapping turtles in the summertime. And I don't know if the pond is deep enough, could it remain cold on the bottom? I don't know what's all involved in all of that. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of highlight some thoughts and some questions, and my main concern is what happens downstream.
And good questions.
No,
No, I was going to say, I thought, did we post those presentations separately?
Yeah, yeah, they're all
Okay,
there.
maybe we should look at it, just make sure that maybe Chris can clean them up a little bit if it's hard
Yeah,
to.
Chief Valentine did a really excellent job, I thought, in explaining a lot of that.
And I know a big part of what has to be done in removing the dam is going downstream and looking at the impact and what happens on both sides. It's not really removing the pond, it's more removing the dam. The issue is the dam. It would be great if we could keep both, but you can't. So I think that's what we're struggling with right now. But your questions are very good. Maybe our consultant can help answer some of those, and we can get you answers to them.
Okay.
Respond to them.
No rush.
Great.
Could you send them to Tom directly?
Yeah, I can do that.
And that way
I
I can
can
give you answers.
clean it up and send it to you directly.
When is our next public hearing on the dam?
June 13th. Yeah,
And
we wanted to allow more time for input.
Is she
questions.
coming back?
The environment.
The environment, the expert that was here.
I can't remember, Running Waters, what was the name?
Ripple.
Ripple.
Yeah.
We talked about
Can we
retaining
get her
her.
back? Yeah,
Can we get her back?
maybe we could
I think
have
it's gonna
a question and answer session with her and invite the public.
Is that okay,
There's,
Tom?
there's, people, I'm sure there's other
Is,
people that have
is that the
questions.
company that's going to be doing the work afterwards, or?
No, I don't
No,
think they
it's a different
actually do
company?
the work.
They would consult, my understanding is they would consult with its engineering and with its process.
It would be them and Ferraro, the engineering.
The our
Pardon?
engineering.
Yeah, the borough's engineering group, Ferraro, it would be them and Rippling Waters together.
Okay,
But
good.
I think smartly, as you said, we should take all those questions, get them to her ahead of time, allow her to answer them, because there's things there we hadn't thought of, which I think is
Yeah,
good.
just so that down the road, you're not
Yeah.
gonna say, oh, we didn't figure this, and then you have a whole new format here, and it's not working, or I don't know.
Yeah,
And transparently, I mean, I think everyone sitting here has never thought about dam removal until recently.
Yeah.
Right, so we're all sort of educating
Kind of
ourselves
learning.
on the solutions, what they cost and what the impacts are, so.
Because downstream, really, lately, and
There's
probably
one
because
Also,
of silt,
those are- I think
the
that's
flooding
because
is
of the
unbelievable.
silt that we have built
The
up.
questions that you raised, a lot of them are valid questions right now. They're problems that exist currently, and they will exist with removal or with
Right, exactly.
reconstruction. So
Right.
what we discussed, we did discuss these and the concerns of the chief in the public safety, and we also did discuss it in public works about doing a parallel track and trying to see what the hazard mitigation is for the problems that exist now, and do a parallel track with either removal or reconstruction, so we're not holding up the dam issue, but we're dealing with them both at the same time on parallel tracks. And that's what we discussed, and there's also FEMA grants that are possible for us to get, to take care of the mitigation problem, which is the problem that exists currently that you're talking about.
Right.
To make sure that if we do removal or if we do reconstruction, that problem is solved.
Yeah, and there might be, some other surprise grants that you can get, like
Yes.
for fish ladders and things like
So
that, from
we
Fish and Wildlife. or
We are
whatever.
discussing it, we have been
Okay.
discussing it, and we do have all the concerns from the chief, thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks, Roberta. And thanks for coming in person.
Lovely.
Nice to have an audience here. Anyone else in the public wish to speak or be heard? Seeing none?
No, but someone else has just joined, but I don't see anyone.
Nobody raising their hand.
And my phone too just came on. No, I don't think.
Okay, well, we do have another opportunity at the end, so I will close this public hearing. And we will move on to a public hearing on ordinance 2022-1915, an ordinance supplementing and amending Chapter 2 of the Borough Code entitled Administration to allow council members to attend 2 meetings per year remotely and updating language. Would you- Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
open the public
First,
hearing.
we're opening the public hearing. So, okay, I'm still
Still in
I'm still
European time.
away. Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Would you like to
Yep.
move it?
I move to pass ordinance 2022-1915 on final reading and adopt as published.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ambeline,
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
All right, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2022-1917, appropriating $660,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund for various equipment as listed in the 2022 municipal budget. Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this?
Can I just make one comment, Mayor?
Yes.
While those in the public are thinking about any comments. I had inquired about additional costs for the EV vehicles.
Yes.
And kindly, Leslie Robertson did send an email that they looked into it, and there are no additional costs other than the electricity itself. And so,
Which may be less than the gas.
especially these days, yeah.
Yes.
So if anybody else had a similar just concern about, and my concern there was, would there be build out or additional unforeseeable costs with infrastructure having to do with that, and it turns out there are none, and also confirmed that the Public Works Department has individuals capable of maintaining, like the maintenance on the cars and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a good question.
And thanks for the follow-up.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard on this ordinance?
No.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Mr. McQueen, would you?
Sure, I'll move to pass ordinance 2022-1917 on final reading and adopt as published.
A second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Mr. McQueen?
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield?
Yes.
Mr. Emily?
Yes.
All right. So, Jay, how about you? You want to move this one?
These are for introduction.
Yeah, this is just introduction.
I move that ordinance 2022-1918 supplementing and amending the borough land use ordinance to amend the AH3 zone requirements and adding 2 additional affordable housing zones be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning 7 p.m. Monday, June 27th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Jack, can you just give us a brief summary on this?
Yes, these are the ordinances implementing the RPM scattered sites development. So this now will be introduced by the council this evening, referred to the planning board for both consistency review and any other comments they may have and then come back here. It's been worked on over the course of several years. This ordinance itself was written by the borough planner, and we hope it accomplishes what they need
What
to
we're
do.
required to do?
And Jack, since it came up during the first public comment, can you just talk a little bit why the scattered zone approach is taken by the borough and why that makes sense to us?
Yes, as you alluded to earlier, Mr. McQueen, many towns are satisfying their affordable housing obligation by allowing for builders remedies and set aside developments. But what that means is you need 5 times as many units in order for each affordable unit. So as a result, we approximate an obligation of 200 units. In order to satisfy that, we need 1,000 units. So
Yeah.
we've built in a lot more development, high-density development. By doing it this way, the borough was able to limit the number of new high-density units. And the North Findlay site, which is all seniors, is within our cap that we have for senior development, and that's especially desirable because, first of all, they're smaller units, they require less parking, and they don't produce any school children.
Hopefully.
And the other 3 sites, rather than having one development of, 250 units like some other towns are doing, we've got 48 or so units scattered over 3 sites throughout the borough.
And what is our total requirement? I'm sorry, Jay.
Oh, it's so convoluted.
Yeah, but it's 100 and some.
Yeah, it's almost 200, but through bonuses and credits for prior rounds and things, this satisfies most of our units. We did in our original plan have 54 units in the quarry, which would have been a builder's remedy, but as a result of the changes, that's down to 17 units. I think 12 units are also being provided in the Quimby redevelopment area. So it's the 48 units plus the 12 in Quimby, plus the 17 in the quarry, which is builder's remedy, plus the senior development.
And then when is it 2025, when we get a new assessment?
Yes, and there's been no movement toward any kind of reinstallment
Redoing
of COA or
the
coming up
process.
with rules, so it may be just as chaotic as this round of thing.
And again, can you just review how the courts calculate how many units you need?
Makes your hair hurt if you do it.
Just briefly.
They couldn't have done this before computers. They take into account your vacant land, the vacant developable land. They take into account the number of jobs, the number of new people that have moved in. There are all kinds of factors that they plug into the computer. They count as vacant land, islands in the middle of intersections and things.
Wow, really?
And, the towns tried to fight 300 and some of us, banded together and formed a consortium, hired experts, and the courts ignored the municipalities' experts. Basically relied on the Fair Share Housing Center. So the best option, and I think everyone agrees on this, is that the Fair Share Housing Center was willing to settle for 70% of the Kinsey numbers. Those were the numbers they came up with, which is what we did. And as I said, then we applied bonuses for rental units, bonuses for senior units, and it came up with that plan, which, to the best of our ability, mitigated the effect on the borough.
Well, so I want to make sure that, I just want to make sure the public can hear Jack.
Oh,
Olivia, can the public hear what Jack was saying? Olivia, you still there? Because I know that the audio isn't always ideal.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Yeah, yes, it's a little muffled, but yes, we can hear him,
Go ahead, Tom.
or I can.
Just wanted to point out that council's efforts to preserve open space not only had that environmental benefit, but it also reduced the denominator by which that computer formulates our number.
So any land designated as open space or farmland or whatever is removed.
Right.
So although the borough purchased 271 Minebrook for open space purposes, and that was the only motivation, as a result, in the fourth round, starting in 2025, that will no longer be
That will be
available
on.
for vacant land.
You know, and I'll speak for myself, because look, over the last almost 3 years now, I've been part of many of the open space, affordable housing, low-income housing conversations. As, again, speaking from my own personal opinion, as we're looking at various properties and see if they make sense, and I know that many of this are designated, the goal here is to improve the area with these properties. And I think it's, to date, every one that we've moved forward with is likely going to improve the areas around them.
Mhm.
And I know, Olivia, you expressed some concerns that the public may have about the impact that this may have on our community. But I can say that I'm using this as a tool to hopefully improve pieces of our community through monies and different ways that we can spend money.
Yeah, and rehabbing buildings that normally would not have been rehabbed.
That's right, and there are 3 sites that are part of the scatter sites. One is across the street, which was purchased probably 40, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
for affordable housing. The second is the Emmerman lot, which is totally underutilized, so the borough didn't have to spend money to purchase it. And the third was 63 Berners Avenue, which hopefully we're going to improve that.
Yeah,
that
that would be
property.
a big improvement, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be a
to
huge
that area.
improvement. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay, so, it was moved and seconded, so all we need is an all in favor.
Aye.
All right, Diane, you move the next one?
I move that ordinance 2022-1919 concerning the procedures for submission and approval of final site plan and subdivision plats and supplementing and amending Article 9 entitled Site Plan Review and Article 10 entitled Subdivision of the Borough Land Development Regulations be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. Monday, June 27th, 2022.
I'll second.
This ordinance was prepared to request the Francola. It does several things. One is it reflects current practices. Secondly, it updates some of the language. You had like building department before, now it's the construction office. So it's really just updating the section where final plans get circulated after adoption, or after approval.
Okay, thank you, Jack. So we just need an all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to resolutions, we have 22-118 through 22-123. Are there any that you want to pull out or talk about separately?
I have none tonight, man.
I'm good.
I think you should make a comment on 22-123.
Sure.
The one.
Yes, and actually we found it does say that our employees are doing it. We didn't know that last time. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's great.
Yeah, Al, do you want to give the background since you?
Yeah, sure. So, Diane, is that okay? I mean, it's
Go
public
ahead,
works.
go ahead.
Okay. So obviously the last council meeting, there was first of all, I think a number of residents have called the borough or wrote emails or letters to the borough asking, questioning the deterioration of 107 Chestnut Avenue. The borough, we have the zoning officer here. She made detail over the course of a few months the attempts to reach the individual who owns 107 Chestnut Avenue. Also provided photos of the growth, deterioration of the property, woodland, sort of wood and kind of garbage that it sort of, that stray animals, et cetera, that it built up. So we talked about it in Public Works. One good thing that I think is both beneficial to the borough and maybe even not extremely onerous for when we identify the property owner at some point is the borough employees actually can go and enter the property and maintain it themselves. So they'll clean it, they'll mow the lawn, they'll stack up the materials that they find, they'll make sure that it's essentially presentable and really address a lot of the concern that residents had raised to the borough. And so we thought that this was a good solution, but with that being said, we want to make sure that it's clear that the lien will be placed against 107 Chestnut Avenue for the time and cost that the borough employees are garnering to remediate the property.
Thank you. Good explanation. All right. Any other ones we want to talk about? I think that's pretty, they're all pretty self-explanatory.
Simple.
So-
It's almost summertime.
Yeah, I know. Who would like to move them?
I'll move resolutions 22-118 through 22-123.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amling,
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
All right, moving on to reports. We're very fortunate tonight. I don't have much to report.
That was Prague.
Brock was lovely, because I think I've been away since the last meeting, so I am back, but the one thing I did want to mention is don't forget the parade on Monday. If you're in town, you get to march. So be at the high school at 10 o'clock. And it sounds like, we've got a good turnout for participants in the parade. So it's been 2 years without one. I think people are really excited to have the parade, so just a reminder for that. And also, I wanted to just thank Leslie for letting us know that the bank is increasing our interest rate, which will bring us an extra $5,000 in interest this year. Nowhere near what we used to get, but we're moving in the right direction. So that was good news. Tom, would you like to share the report?
So first, just to want to tell the public, although we did post it today, that the construction zoning office is now virtual until after Memorial Day. We had a bit of an outbreak of COVID. Everyone's doing fine, and that is why I'm wearing a mask today when I was in that group. That everyone is working at home and relying on their past experience on how to get this done seamlessly. We had 206 customers take advantage of our household cleanup day on the 14th, big success. And our e-event, e-waste event on the 21st was also very successful. So I want to thank Kathy and John and the team for working on that, and the Environmental Commission as well. The pool opens next week. I'd like to thank DPW for removing all the old trash cans in the downtown area and installing the new ones.
They look great. They really are, make a big difference.
Yeah, they're not going to get bent, and
Right, dented and knocked over, yeah.
And we're also going to put whatever logo designs we come up with on those cans eventually.
Yeah.
And then I know we did have a issue with the cell phone coverage again in the polo grounds, and I know the police department has jumped on top of that, reaching out to Verizon. Have anything to add on that?
I've heard from them today. They apparently found the problem and they're working to get it corrected and repaired.
Awesome.
It's a big call, it's done.
And then we were also happy to host police supervisors today from around the area for a risk management seminar. So that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. We also have the monthly reports from department heads. Anybody have questions on any of those, or
I'll move them. No one
to
has questions.
accept them? Yeah, I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public safety, did you meet? Or that would have been Gina.
Yeah, we did.
You did meet though, on the 12th. Anybody want to report? Well, Gina had the notes, but, just anything. Chief? You want to report?
I'll have to get my notes. It's gonna-
Yeah.
So we did meet, we discussed a variety of issues. I think we spent a lot of time talking about the dam remediation and the concerns that Roberta had earlier. we discussed those in detail. Subsequent to that, as was mentioned, people from the DPW and our engineers have been addressing those concerns. We were just not fully informed of everything I think that was taking place, so hopefully in the future we'll get some clarification on that. But I'm satisfied that most of the concerns that I brought forward are being addressed in one way or another, and that there is some planning going on to deal with those concerns. So I don't think we need to go into detail and rehash everything that was done there. There were some other things that we talked about.
I think, did you say the short-term housing ordinance, that proposed ordinance, did you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, we did discuss that, and the chief had said that he hasn't had any complaints, so from a safety aspect, it was not a safety issue at all.
Okay.
We decided that it was a solution in search of a problem, and that since it's not a problem at this time, that we would pull it, and then if at a later date it became a problem, then we could reintroduce it, and I did notify the housing department.
Oh,
The
excellent.
advisory committee.
Good, good.
I think that's well done.
Excellent. Yeah.
I think it's the right way to get,
Yeah.
good choice.
That's how the process should go, right? From suggestion to the committee to, so thank you for reviewing it, and I'm glad to hear that it isn't a problem.
We also addressed the issue with the noise complaints, I believe.
Yes.
Did you bring that up, Dan?
No.
Okay, I was looking at my notes. So we did bring that up, and we had 5 different trash transfer companies that were operating in town at different times of day, different times of the night. It's kind of hard to isolate exactly who was responsible for what at the time. They've all been consolidated into one. So since that time, we've been aggressively working during the night to track down the different drivers and the different trucks that are in the area. And it's not always the same people on the same nights. They're coming from all over. They're getting assignments, and they're not familiar with the ordinances in the town. It's a big company.
Yeah.
But I think we've got them pretty well educated now. We have taken the appropriate action. We have talked to quite a few of the drivers in the morning, and I think it'll be a little bit quieter going forward.
Thank you.
Hopefully it'll be resolved.
All right, good. Finance committee?
Finance committee is on their month break after budget passing. But Tom, we do need to get a finance committee meeting together to discuss financing of whatever remedy happens outside of this window.
Yeah.
So, maybe, can we put one on the books for June?
Yeah, good idea. Personnel is Christine, she's not here,
We're meeting next week.
okay. And Public Works?
Okay. Public Works met May 17th. Regarding the dam remediation presentations, we already discussed basically what we discussed regarding that. The committee also was in favor of waiting until our June 13th council meeting to select a course of action regarding the dam. We wanted to give the residents another opportunity to comment or ask questions regarding the dam presentations. And if they have not seen the dam presentations, they can watch the video of the May 19th council meeting. The presentations are at the beginning of the meeting. Regarding the mountaintop drainage issue, the existing storm basin at the corner of Overly and Mountaintop has been lowered to allow the basin to collect runoff more efficiently. And pricing is being obtained to potentially install approximately 400 feet of 12-inch perforated pipe and 4 inlets to better manage the runoff. Sidewalks of Old Army Road and Lower Childs Road. The committee anticipates reviewing sidewalk concept plans and estimates at its June 21st Public Works meeting. 2022 mill and paves, the final list of roads will be available for the June 13th council meeting. The pickleball court, work is underway. Utility poles needed to be moved, and 2 of the poles ended up being owned by the borough. So a new underground electrical connection will be run from Sini Drive to the pool snack shack. This will allow for the removal of the poles and eliminate the overhead wires. We will upgrade service to the snack shack from the current 100 amp service to 200 amp service to accommodate future upgrades. And more great news, the Polo Grounds walking path. Finally, after over a year of waiting, we received the GP11 and the GP17 permits, and can now begin the final engineering based on the conditions outlined in the permits. and Bernards Avenue. In regards to the Bernards Avenue reconstruction project, it is one of the top priorities of the borough to ensure that the construction is done with the highest quality and in a manner which will ensure the lasting result that the Borough Avenue neighborhood residents deserve. Given this, after much discussion and after vetting all foreseeable outcomes, the Public Works Committee has reached the conclusion that the Bernards Avenue reconstruction project schedule should be revised. The revised schedule would begin with the bidding of the project in November with an anticipated start date of early spring. Due to a delay in the receipt of grant funds, which we are using for this project, we would have been starting the bidding process pretty late in the season. We have concerns around supply chain issues and contractor availability, and given these factors, we want to avoid excessive costs and the possibility of winter construction, which can yield an inferior product. In addition, the borough is presently engineering the second phase of the area's roadway improvement project, referred to as the Bernards Avenue Neighborhood Project. The potential to bid these projects at the same time in November exists and could potentially lead to additional cost savings for both projects and a unified comprehensive plan to enhance the local community. From a public works perspective, improving the infrastructure of the entire Bernards Avenue area remains the highest priority, and we want to ensure the work is done right and that we are mindful of taxpayer dollars. Therefore, to ensure the best possible outcome for this project, the Public Works Committee suggests that the council agree to the revised schedule.
I personally agree with the revised schedule, but my only concern is the financial one. And this is part of what we have to meet about at the Finance Committee. If the dam remediation falls into that same calendar year, so we've set up a debt reduction plan that involves approximately half $500,000 or $500 million. Tom, help me. My mind's been a long day. I was up at 6 o'clock. $500,000, not $500 million.
For the dam?
No, for on an annual basis for new bond appropriation.
Yeah, for the roads.
So if we have to use up some or all of that money for the dam, I'm not sure if it'll affect the fiscal plan.
We had raised that.
Well, we've already allocated the money for this project, so the money.
For part one.
For part one, yes.
But not
And
for part two.
Well, we're also applying for a grant to pay for
Right.
part of it.
We already submitted for that grant, but even if that grant doesn't come through for the second part, we still are doing Bernards Ave.
Yes, and
We'll still
the
do
money's
Bernards
already
Ave.
appropriated for that.
The waiting
so
on
it's not-
Bernards Ave is not an issue,
yes.
it's more combined part one and part
Right,
two.
yes, which would be an added bonus to do them both at the same
It might
time,
be
because
less expensive.
it would be
I
less
can-
expensive and
I
it would
agree.
be less destructive.
It's worth looking at Finance Committee, but I do think we were talking to Doug Walker about it, and it was supposed to be, because it had already been allocated, because the grant money has been received or is due to be received, it was supposed to be neutral and negligible. That being said, looking at it both holistically would be good. I think the other thing from the Finance Committee standpoint is, I think the primary reason for this is that while no neighborhood deserves a repaving and refurbishment of their road like Bernards Ave, that neighborhood also deserves the highest quality product possible.
Agreed, 100%.
With that though, they were afraid by bidding this late, the cost overruns could be 10 to 15% higher according to Doug's experience. And that would be even worse from a financial standpoint. But bidding late this year, and it might actually be back to, by getting it done in the fall for 2023, it would be, I think, better stewards of taxpayer dollars.
Can we just add that to the discussion
Yeah.
list? Because I know that we bid out both projects, they were initially in this year's fiscal budget as a whole project. We delayed half of it. We just gotta see what's gonna, how it's gonna affect with that.
Yeah.
Okay, the second part is like $900,000.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give you.
So when we come back, so I think the delaying of part one's not a problem, but we'll analyze it just to see, you talk about as a council, how it's gonna affect. I see Jason squirming in his chair.
It would be really great to do them together.
Yes, get that whole project done at once.
I don't disagree.
I just hate to put them off another year, that's.
Oh, I know,
I know.
but I think that we would have been in a bad position to rushing through to get it done before the winter, whereas now, if we do at the beginning of the season, we take advantage of having the time to do it.
If I could prioritize, I would prioritize that over getting the dam done. That's just my personal opinion.
Oh,
But I'm not sure that the state is going to let us.
No, the DEP may not agree.
If I may, just for council's benefit, you know, all towns basically adopt their budgets at the same time, more or less. And as soon as that happens, there's like a mad rush to get your road projects out for RFP.
Yeah.
That means if the grant comes through midsummer, all the contractors are pretty much booked up and they just be delay after delay, plus a bad cost, bids. They wouldn't be that competitive. And that, the risk would then put us into the winter months, which we don't want to do.
Okay. Well, thanks for that analysis. I think it's, you know, good work from the committee.
Has Doug already communicated all, I'm assuming you have all the information on the costing side for us to discuss?
Yeah.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
You're a very busy committee. Thank you. Land use has not met. I believe we're going to be meeting in early June. Are there any other committees that met? Environmental?
Environmental met, couple topics of discussion, specifically the dam presentation came up. There were some just discussion points on that and specific questions that I'm sure will get asked, but in terms of the other side of the dam closest to the railroad tracks and whether or not that would if that would still remain wet and some of the concerns there. So they went through that, and then I believe that's it. That was all the points of starting.
The planning board obviously met. That was the reason for the.
No, they didn't.
Oh, we did. No, actually, we actually did meet.
Oh, okay.
So the planning board did meet, but we had to remove one item from the agenda.
Right.
For those members of the public and your council's not entirely aware, we had a Zoom capacity of 100. Either we had over 100 residents or we had folks that were electronically there that were causing our room to fill up. And obviously, in public discourse, we have to have room for all public that wants to speak. So that item is being rescheduled. Tom, I don't think there's a reschedule yet for it. A couple dates have been thrown around, but I don't think it's in place yet.
It's not in place yet.
And we did expand our capacity to
Yeah.
250?
We did, we're at 300.
Oh, 300, okay.
So that's the reason why I wanted to explain what area redevelopment designation meant tonight. And ultimately, we'll have a public hearing on that parcel and whether or not the planning board will decide whether or not it needs it or not.
Did you meet yet on community crisis?
No, I think community crisis is coming up. And that's part of the problem with the reschedule is these hearings get scheduled in advance with legal teams. So it's not very easy for us to reschedule. It was supposed to be scheduled in May, but it didn't happen. So it might have gotten changed.
Diane?
Housing, Property Maintenance, and Zoning Enforcement Advisory Committee met on May 20th. They discussed enforcement of the borough sign ordinance. They continued work on the potential perimeter fence ordinance and continued work on a revamp of the commercial vehicle parking in residential zones ordinance. And open space and HPAC did not meet.
Oh, I'm very much looking forward to that. The parking.
Yeah.
And it affects the permit tab as.
Yes.
Yes.
I have more to help.
Okay.
Pretty quick meeting. Really started out talking about the COVID rates have been rising in the area. There was a question from a committee member on that if schools are considering masking again. They made the point that the masking requirements can only be done by the governor. That's the only one that can require, do a state order on that. That being said, there may be individual districts at times that consider to or take up whether they would mask or not, but those decisions will be made by school boards. So individuals should monitor proceedings of the school board regarding that question. And then the other note really was they're going to restart the monthly newsletter, Health Matters, that the health department had been putting out but paused over COVID, and that will still. Okay. One last thing too, on the COVID rates, the department has felt that everything has been manageable so far, so no changes to any of the schedules that have been out there on testing, vaccines, etc. And they're going to stay remote for now, but we'll consider potentially going live in the future. Next meeting is on July 18th.
Okay. Actually, was there a vaccination clinic at the Firehouse?
Last weekend, it was, not
Oh.
just
'Cause, I mean, the signs with the cones were up, I just saw, so I didn't know if
today.
they were still up this morning when I came by.
No, that was different, that's where we had our training this morning.
Oh, it was
So
for
the
the
cone
training,
craft was something
okay.
different.
Yeah, they
no,
were
that's
showing
the
the parking.
training.
Got
Chief,
it.
how, do any,
I don't have any numbers, so it was run by the county, that wasn't
Yeah.
here, I wasn't here that day, so I'm not
Yeah.
saying.
And we haven't had any county meetings lately, so they, you know, how we used to do before, it was every week and then it was twice and then it was once a month, and I think, so, because usually they share those numbers with us at those county meetings, and we haven't had any lately. Anybody else? Any other recreation? Anything? Okay. We do have a meeting with Suburban that you're,
I was gonna ask that in old business.
25th. Oh, yeah,
And is that,
At the staff level, we're meeting this Wednesday.
yeah.
Okay.
And we need to hear theirs, and then will we get it at the next, council meeting? Possibly.
Possibly.
well, it should probably be presented in committee first.
Yeah.
Right, at Recreation Committee and
Yep.
Public Works, probably the two.
Finance as well.
And finance.
Okay,
A lot of committee hearings, so
Yeah.
staff's getting its first look at it on Wednesday.
great.
Okay. All right.
This
moving on
Wednesday, that's
to
really good news.
Yeah.
Made my day.
Items of business, temporary outdoor dining. This is an issue that Renee Puso brought to our attention. Evidently, our ordinance has a sentence in there that doesn't go
Yeah.
along with what you want.
I don't understand, because I thought we resolved this,
I
where
did
parking,
too.
parking in other areas could be used for outdoor dining so long as they had allowable parking on all of their offsites.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
it not represent that, or is it an inconsistency in ordinance number, Jack?
Did we,
Yeah, that last sentence that Renee
No.
highlighted was left in the ordinance, and this was the overall downtown rezoning.
right,
It's easy to get lost in there. Tom and I discussed this, and I thought that was your philosophy, that you wanted to do that. We did think that maybe we should add just some language to the effect that if, in the opinion of the zoning officer, it will have an adverse impact on traffic flow, you know,
Fine.
parking, handicap parking, things like that. But, you
Yeah,
know,
in the
I thought we
spirit
made
of
a
it,
whole
we didn't
lot-
want that to get in the way.
Right, I thought
Yeah.
we made a whole lot of enforcing it, because it's my understanding that you did not want to put people after that before.
That's
so
correct.
can we have an amendment to that ordinance for the next agenda?
Yes.
Excellent.
Especially since I just made a presentation and included all those wonderful improvements in it.
Yeah.
It made me
All
all
the
right.
things we did.
No, no. We're covering our tracks.
Yeah, just want a clean ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and look, and this is part of the problem, when I know that this language appears in multiple documents, and sometimes remnants remain, so
And
thanks
it
for
was a
making
huge
it.
ordinance, so, you know, I'm sure we're gonna stumble across some other things.
Thank you for raising that, and please fix it.
Yep, we'll do.
The second one is from the homeowners on Douglas Ave. I guess they are building a new home behind an existing home. And the way I guess our ordinance reads is that they can't have both at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know of any authority in the municipal land use law to do this, but it's been done, I'm pretty sure we did it here before, at least once or
Yeah,
twice.
and I saw it done on Oak Street in Basking Ridge too, where the house was in front, the big house in the back, and they were living in the
Yeah,
front.
and Long Hill Township's done it at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
You know, it makes sense with those conditions that they outlined very well in the letter. So if it's okay with you, you know, I just ask for a motion to approve it with those conditions, and, you know, maybe set a time limit, that's the one thing they didn't mention.
right.
You know, and if they need more time, they can come back and explain why.
Uh-huh.
What would you recommend time limit was?
18 months?
18 months?
18.
You said a year, right?
18 months is better,
You know,
given the current time.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I make a motion to accommodate the request of the homeowners at 41 Douglas Avenue for 18 months with the option of then coming back to council if they need more time.
If there's still
And with the conditions they set forth in their letter, no CO will be issued with the existing houses demolished and still altogether.
Okay,
What Jack said.
yeah, what Jack said.
Oh,
All in
sorry,
favor?
second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait a second.
Jack, can you, in legal
I
Jack.
names,
didn't see it.
tell them, like, write a letter to them saying that the council, or
Sure, if you'd like.
just to put, you know, here's what the council agreed to.
Yep, we'll do.
kind of thing. Yeah. All right, 10C, we're not doing that, right? Or that's for next,
Well, we wanted
Did you want to do some?
Did you have to make a further statement on it? If not, can I say something real quick?
You can.
Yeah. So I just want to, I think the media's done a great job of covering the conversations around the dam. So this is, I really want to maybe first implore Bernardsville News, tap into Patch, the ones who cover our Bernardsville pretty closely, to make sure that we are proceeding as a council to potentially have on the next agenda, a motion if we heard can we talk about what we're going to make a motion on?
I already.
You already said it, good. So we're proceeding to remove the dam and reestablish the stream, right? And I think there were great points today made by Ms. Rushman, and I kind of want to just maybe echo that we purposely move this to a future meeting so that there's more time for the public to come and to have further comments on it. And it's because we recognize as a council that while we think that this is the right thing to do from an environmental and a fiscal standpoint, it will change the face of the town. And there might be other considerations like the ones raised today and by the chief about just making sure that we're taking a look at how it might affect flooding, debris, et cetera. And so I guess the message is really kind of towards the media to continue to cover this and make sure that residents in Bernardsville know that at a future meeting, the next meeting, we are going to propose removing the dam. And if you feel differently about that, or you just have further questions, make sure you comment and make sure your voice is heard because it's a significant change and one that it's not really our choice. We're kind of being forced upon it by the state by their changing environmental regulations. And we've obviously had a number of great presentations on it, but just want to make sure that you realize that we've taken the time to make this so that people can properly deliberate on it.
But if people are coming to the meeting, they really need to watch the May 9th presentations before they come, so they can see the reasons behind the decisions that we will be making.
Anthony, do we also have the PowerPoints they presented?
Yes, that's on there too.
Okay, good. 'Cause sometimes, I think as Roberta said, you can't always, it didn't come
Yeah.
through clearly, but at least if they can read through the points on
I couldn't
PowerPoint.
read through them either, they were all blurry.
They were blurry.
Yes.
I was
They're in a different
They're in a
section.
different section, not in the video.
They're in a different section.
Oh, okay.
We actually put the
Right.
actual physical PowerPoints up there too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna find that.
If you
Yeah.
email, I can send it. I've sent it out to a few residents that have asked me for it so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can get your email. Yeah.
And actually, maybe we could do, how you put a thing across the top of
Yeah, I
the
can do that too.
website, so there's just a click to get right there, so
Yeah.
people don't have to search
Unless
for
there's
it.
some clicks,
Yeah.
I can do that.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would have no objection to even ahead of the vote, if there were, say, 5 people at a time wanting to meet in a small group and go over very specific questions that they feel like maybe in a larger group they couldn't get answered. Then we'd be happy to walk them through the main points of their concerns. So I have no problem hosting small group meetings, first come, first served sort of thing, here in Town Hall. So people
That's a great idea.
get as much information out as possible now, I think is only gonna help build confidence.
We'll get that in the paper.
Final outcome.
And Tom, you're gonna get Mary to come to the meeting?
We'll schedule a call in, we'll do it, maybe one a week for the next 2 weeks. If we're interested.
Yeah, no, I mean, to have Mary.
Have Mary for the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she can be on Zoom, I mean, that would be fine, just if she.
We'll invite her and I
Yeah.
hope
Yes.
she'll be available.
To answer any questions.
But I think that's a great idea, if people can come in and just sit with you and go through their concerns, rather than, a big public meeting where we can't answer the questions.
Because then we can roll out the maps, we can
Right.
explain, tie the question to the graphics on the map.
Do you want to come up with a list of times, and then maybe we can have them get published in the newspapers and things?
Yeah,
To say,
council,
here's,
if council agrees that I can do that, then
we good with that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Guys, you good with that?
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, terrific.
I think it probably is also a good idea to follow that same cadence when we get preliminary plans from Advance Early too.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
yeah.
Do we have any update on when we're gonna see the first concept plans? Do we have any timeline yet? I know it's soon.
So the redevelopment committee has a preliminary date for June, that as the mayor mentioned, the land use committee to meet and go over that. Those final plans are going to be based on if there's any changes to the formal plan, which is the zoning code. But they would have to follow any sort of changes that council would agree or would not agree to.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the next step.
Great, thank you, Tom.
For the meeting, when we're talking about the dam remediation and maybe a couple after that, because I think we're having, is it possible to make sure, I'm concerned about what happened at the planning board, just making sure that the Zoom capacity is right, and maybe if we have some, and I certainly don't want Chris to have the audio, but maybe we need somebody here to do technical support, so.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Yeah.
all right, thanks.
Okay. Correspondence. We do have a request from a resident for a hardship exemption for parking at the train station. I would suggest, because I know we had a similar one last year, Anthony, I think, and I reached out to the community fund that St. Bernard's manages, and they actually paid it for them, rather than us doing an exemption. I think if, what the community fund does is provides assistance for a one-time, short-term hardship. I mean, it fits perfectly. So I will reach out to them and see if they will cover his costs for him.
Great idea.
Any unfinished business?
Mine got answered. I was wondering when we were going to hear about the master
Okay,
plan
yeah.
presentation. So
Yeah,
again, I know that the public
It's coming
is
soon.
eagerly awaiting. So our friends at the newspaper are going to have a lot of really great news to cover this summer. So you can go to the shore, but you got to read the paper, right? You've got the dam, you've got the rec master plan, which is going to get presented, and we would likely have some more information about Quimby. So,
and Palmer.
and I know that many people in Burnsville leave for the summer, so make sure that you subscribe to the paper, I guess.
No, that's the tap into.
Oh, that's tap into, yeah.
Yeah, the tap into guys. They don't have to, they can just click and they see it. We're all online. New business?
No, I was going to bring up the Verizon Polo Grounds issue, but so thanks to the
See?
chief for reaching out on that.
Staying on top of it. It's interesting that is the one spot that they always seem to have a problem with.
You know, they have these 5G cells all around, and when these storms come through, I think they malfunction.
Yeah,
And this may not be the same problem we had last time, it could be something different, but you're looking into it. I don't get the details, but they'll call me back.
yeah.
Tom, as a matter of business, is it best if I circulate the presentation from this evening or you? What's the right course of?
We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Okay. What was the other- Oh, thank you, Tom, also for following up on the Verizon issues that council gave to you. Hopefully we'll get a good response and some, yeah. Okay, last open session. If anyone in the public would like to speak, now is the time. Just raise your hand. And please give your name and address when you're recognized, and try and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anthony holds up the little timer there. Would anyone from the public like to be heard? I'll look at Roberta first, no, just so I'm not looking down. Do you want to be heard again?
I just have a question when the ballots are going to be arriving.
Oh, good question. Anthony, do you know?
I think the county's gonna send them on June 1st, and I saw it on their website, the sample
Okay.
ballots.
All right,
So it'll be around like the end of May, early June.
all right.
You'll have it.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
That's late, though.
No,
June
June
No,
1st
those are
for,
the sample ballots.
The
The
sample
mail-in
ballots.
ballots went out a while
I
ago.
believe you said sample ballots, I'm sorry, you said mail-in ballots? or
I
sam-
didn't get sample ballot either.
No, the sample ballots didn't come out yet.
They
The
didn't come out
mail-in
yet.
ballots came out a while ago.
Right.
Yeah,
But if you were on the list as a mail-in previously.
right.
If not, then you could get a sample ballot and then go to the polls.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sample ballots weren't sent out yet by the county.
No,
Yeah.
but the mail-in ballots.
The mail-in
have
ballots
gone
were, yeah,
out,
so
so-
the sample ballots.
Yeah, because that sometimes is confusing because if you don't check that box that you always want to mail in, you won't get one each time. So, yeah,
No,
then you have to request it again.
they
No.
automatically send it to you, you have to opt out now. You have to opt out. If you voted previously absentee, they automatically send you the mail-in ballot unless you opt out.
Well, see, at the last election, I did a mail-in because we were away, I think. I didn't get one this time.
Are you sure?
No, I didn't know it in the mail.
That's what everyone's been told. Because people that tried to
They
opt
keep
out.
changing the
I know.
rules. It's so confusing. I know. Yeah, maybe we should put something
Yeah.
on the website, because the election's the
I put
7th.
something today that links to the county page, it's
Oh,
got a bunch of
good.
information, so it is there.
Excellent. Thank you.
But I can look and
Make
see.
it a click. Can
Yeah.
we make it a click?
It's on the clerk's page, I can put it on the news and announcements to make it another spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
so-
people have started asking questions, it's coming up next
Yeah.
week, so, yeah. Great, thank you, Anthony.
Anybody with their hand up?
Anybody
Oh,
from the public wish to be heard?
we got this way, it's gonna go through the, yeah.
Yeah, it would show up next to their name, too.
Yeah, so it'll show up here, that's true,
Yeah, I can
yeah,
see
I'm
that.
going through, yeah.
I can see the hand, I can't read
Yeah,
the
no, I
name.
don't see anybody.
All I can see is Olivia.
All right.
No, I mean on the list.
Oh, on the
right?
list. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't see.
Yeah,
If
right,
they-
right here would be two.
Yeah, if they put their hand up, it would show there as well, so no one from the public would like to be heard. All right, then I will close the public session. Do we have executive items?
There was one from Jack, I thought.
Jack,
I'm
did you
sorry,
have
no.
an executive item?
I have nothing, thank you.
Oh, okay. Guess what that means?
I'll motion to adjourn.
I will second.